All right, I think we are live, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, let's wait for some people to get on in, and then we can get started. But yeah, welcome to the live stream, everybody. All right, welcome on in, everybody. We're gonna get started. Happy April 23rd. It is 8 p.m. A lot of news to get to. A lot of things happening in the world, obviously. But yeah, let's break it down. Let's get into it. We can start off here with a couple of stories right away. Um, Let's see. Do we want to hop into RFK first, or should we just do the Ukraine war first? Because there's a lot of stuff about this. This blew up earlier today. And Alex Jones had a lot to say about this too. We can go ahead and watch his reaction to that. Um, and yeah, let's see if we can pull this up, everybody. Okay, let's start off with So RFK says we have a big pharma and a big food on the run now. Okay.
It's not the time to stop. It's the time to redouble your efforts because we have them on the run now. And we are going to win this battle. And 4 years from now, we're going to have most of these products off the market, or you will know about them when you go in the grocery store. So I want to thank you. We are spending as much on mitochondrial disorders like diabetes as we spend on our military budget. We can't continue to exist like this. And the problem is industry is making money keeping us sick. As Jay pointed out, ADHD is associated with all these behavioral disorders. But those disorders are treated not by changing our diet, but providing medications to treat our kids. And they get medicated, and that's the only
this
solution.
is definitely big news.
And, I would point out that there is part of the etiology of these diseases is a kind of media malpractice, a mass psychosis that has our media not talking about this. And one of the possible reasons for that is the amount of money that's coming from the pharmaceutical companies into our media and from these food companies, or the advertising.
Yeah, that's a lot right there, but definitely.
The advertising has at least plays a factor. So that revenue, that extraordinary revenue stream, in disabling their capacity or their inclination for skepticism and for critical thinking. So Americans don't know what they're eating, and they don't know the implications of those things.
It is the foundation of mitochondrial electrochemical generation. It is the foundation of it all. But what else does incredible things for your mitochondrial system and cleans them out and makes them healthier on record? The Germans invented it for health and energy. You didn't even know why it worked. The first patented drug ever. We don't sell it as that. It's a supplement, but methylene blue. Why does Robert F. Kennedy take 3 droppers of it a day? By the way, that's triple the dose you're supposed to take. So consult your physician. We have the strongest medical grade USP methylene blue, ultra methylene blue at the AlexJonesStore.com. And the long-term health and energy that I felt being on this over a month now, and I took methylene blue before when my doctor recommended it 6 years ago off and on. He said just get USP. But I know this, the other USP brands, you should take it or they take a lot. And everybody should become subscribers. You should also become.
Okay, well, I guess that was his breakdown of that. Let's see what people have to say. Some people said I can bullshit if cannabis lands on the Schedule 3. That means we have a liar problem. Real Alex Jones, our RFK Jr. is leading the charge against Big Pharma and Big Food toxic greed, exposing how they position our kids for profit. Finally, a leader with the guts to put America's health first. Trump made the right call. Keep fighting, sir. The deep states and days are numbered. Okay. Obviously, a lot of people in favor of RFK going after the Big Pharma and people over there. But yeah, that's definitely some big news, obviously. Um, Yeah, and everybody, everybody's saying like this is a health kit for sure. Um, but if it's gonna work or not, who knows? Because obviously, big pharma, is a huge lobbyist still. They still have an immense influence and capital and to be able to lobby and control certain industries. But I definitely think that's interesting that this video is definitely gone viral. But for sure, but yeah, we can get into some of these more stories. Obviously, a big one today was between obviously Trump and Zelensky. So we can get on into that. Here, let's pull that up. Okay. So, according to Reuters, Trump and Zelensky clash again, and the U.S. warns they could abandon Ukraine talks. Okay, so here's some key points. Zelensky says emotions ran high in London, recalls Pompeo's Crimea pledge. Trump calls Kyiv position on Crimea inflammatory. White House says president's frustrated. And then Rubio canceled plan to attend London talks. Okay, so President Donald Trump and the Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky clashed again on Wednesday on efforts to end the three-year-old war in Ukraine, with the U.S. leader chiding Zelensky for refusing to recognize Russia's occupation of Crimea. And then this is important right here. So Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance said it was time for Russia and Ukraine to either agree to U.S. peace proposal or for the United States to walk away from this process, echoing a warning from Trump last week. Obviously, this comes as a major threat to Zelensky, and to the movement here, because not only if these peace talks fall through in the next coming weeks, will the United States pull its full support from this conflict in general? You know, because right now it looks like they're keep fighting and just standstill. Ukraine doesn't want to give up. Russia doesn't want to give up, and they're both being pretty like hard to come to the table and negotiate. So Trump and JD Vance is basically saying, well, you know what? If you guys don't want to negotiate, then we're gonna stop our mediation process and let you guys fight it out and just keep it going. And obviously, people have a problem with this because they feel like Trump is not being fair to Ukraine, and maybe and then some of the people in MAGA feel like Ukraine has being taken advantage of the U.S. and our military supplies and funding. But we're gonna have to see how it breaks down, obviously. Um, and then this is a quote here. So, speaking to reporters in India, Vance said the proposal called for freezing territorial lines at some level to close where they're today and a long term diplomatic settlement that hopefully will lead to long term peace. The only way to really stop the killing is for armies to both put down their weapons to freeze things, he said. Okay, obviously pointing, to the direction of Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, so let's see what else he said. So Zelensky on Tuesday reiterated that Ukraine would never cede Crimea to Russia, which seized control of the peninsula in 2014 in a move that was condemned internationally. There's nothing to talk about here. It's against our constitution, he says. So Zelensky doesn't want to recognize Crimea as Russian territory yet, even though, obviously Russia has full control of the Crimea territory and the Donbass region, and even some of the fellow Ukrainians that speak Russian don't mind living under Russian rule. But Zelensky has his point that this is our native land, and we don't want to give it up, even if people tend to agree with Russia's position. So I think that's an interesting point. Obviously, this comes after the month before, where Trump and Zelensky had a feisty meeting, right? Um, and this is it so right here. So in this article, it says Trump's patient is running very thin. The White House spokesperson Caroline Levitt told reporters Trump is frustrated with the pace of the talks, that Zelensky seems to be moving in the wrong direction. Several sources have said proposals from Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff include not the only recognizing Russia's annexation of Crimea, but accepting Russia's control of 20% of Ukraine's territory it has gained in the war, ruling out that Ukrainian membership to NATO, and lifting Western sanctions. Okay, so I mean, that's the I guess the thing on the hill we won't die on. Trump saying Ukraine can't become a part of NATO, and then they must succeed 20% of the territory that Russia has already given up. So and that's a lot for Ukraine to give up. Because if you're telling Ukraine that They can't get a NATO membership. They also have to sign a minerals deal with the U.S. to pay back some of their financial aid we gave them, and then they also have to secede 1/5 or 20% of the territory that you Russia has already occupied. Then it seems like a lose-lose situation for Ukraine and their followers. But you know what, it does give a perception of Donald Trump getting a dub. Maybe it gives Russia a dub, but altogether it would stop the killing if this were to happen. It would stop the killing, and it would make these two superpowers come back to the table, right? um See, and then the follow-up article to that was later reported today was the AP obviously said Trump says Zelensky is prolonging war in Ukraine by resisting calls to cede Crimea to Russia. Okay, so this is a part of it, right? Basically, Trump demanding that not only that does Ukraine, secede some of the territory it has, but also it has to recognize that Russia is now the going to be a long-term occupying force in the region. So let's read what the AP reports. So President Donald Trump on Wednesday lashed out at Ukraine's president, saying Volodymyr Zelensky is prolonging the war, the killing field, after pushing back on ceding Crimea to Russia as part of the potential peace plan. Zelensky on Tuesday ruled out ceding territory to Russia in any deal before talks set for Wednesday in London among U.S. Okay, and European and Ukraine officials. There is nothing to talk about. It is our land and the land of Ukrainian people. Okay. And he's making his position very firm. Obviously, he's going on, a media tour. He's talking to other European leaders. He's hitting back at the Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And we have to, all as Americans and as people in this country who whose taxpayers are funds are going to Ukraine, we have to ask what is his main goal. If he doesn't want to sign the mineral deal, if he doesn't want to secede a territory, if he doesn't want to end the war, if he doesn't even want to come to the table for negotiations, what's the point of the U.S. mediating this? Because U.S. will just be blamed for anything that goes on, and so will Trump, and then it will look good because we don't want to get in another foreign war and entanglement in a foreign country, right? So and just right here because pull apart. So Trump called Zelensky's pushback very harmful to talks, and said nobody is asking Zelensky to recognize Crimea as Russian territory, but if he wants Crimea, why didn't they fight for it 11 years ago when it was handed over to Russia without a shot being fired? He wrote on social media. And yeah, Trump is obviously, you know, having his position, you know. Here, let's read this quote here. So he said, "We've issued a very explicit proposal to both the Russians and Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from this process," Vance told reporters, okay, during his visit to India. And that's the thing, right? Because no matter what, in a sense that we've already supported the war in terms of financial funding, military supplies, and then we can just look up how much aid has the U.S. given to Ukraine. Okay, and basically stuff like here, right? So if you see, us to date, we have provided $66.5 billion in military assistance since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of the Ukraine on 2000 or February 2024, 2022, and approximately 69.2 billion in military assistance since the Russian initial invasion. Okay, so I mean, it's basically saying that we've given around I mean, are these combining numbers or the same numbers? Either way, it's up in the billions. It's an absurd number that we have to start giving to Ukraine. You know, and then stuff like this. When it's just reported back that what Trump and Zelensky keep clashing over these talks, over these peace talks, and then you understand why people in America First, people in MAGA, people who support Donald Trump are really furious with Zelensky, because not only we're giving him money, military assistance, we have to all vocally support Ukraine's right to self-determination. We have to be vocally against what's happening in Russia. Meanwhile, Zelensky is buying yachts, he's buying cars, he's buying mansions. Zelensky is making a lot of money. His generals is making a lot of money. His family is making a lot of money. And then he doesn't want to come to the table to talk. So it's insane, that Zelensky feels entitled to, push Trump, on negotiation deals, which he has nothing to do with, you know. Um, Welcome Darkwood Presents. Thank you for joining the chat. He said, defund Ukraine. Yeah, and do you see these? These numbers are insane, dude. Because not only are we, I mean, that's enough money to like build a country, build a couple cities. But yeah, I mean, and think about this. We've given them, you can say it's between 150 billion to 300 billion in like total assistance, and they're still at a standstill, or they're like losing, and Russia's gaining territory. So in reality, we threw away that money. We threw away that money, but our military industrial complex is happy because they got to test weapons in Ukraine. Our military industrial complex got a cut of that check. They skimmed some off the top. And who's benefiting from this? Obviously, America's not benefiting from this. Our military industrial complex is benefiting from this. Ukraine's president and his circle is benefiting from this. Not the people of Ukraine, but Ukraine president is benefiting from this. Russia's benefiting from this. China would be benefiting from this because it sows division. It's a proxy war, and they support Russia. All right. So looking overall on this situation, should we still be in foreign entanglements? Cheering or fighting these wars for foreign nations? Who knows? But that's a lot to get to. And to get back to this point here, if you can go look back at Vance's quote. Let's see if we can find it. Um, yeah. So here, I mean, this is like the main thing, and this is America first because, like we said, we didn't vote for war, we didn't vote for foreign funding. We've issued a very explicit proposal both to Russia and Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes, for the United States to walk away from this process. Vance told reporters, I mean, we could have just walked away because we already gave him money, we already gave him assistance, we already gave him military aid, we vocally support Ukraine. What else are we gonna do besides like maybe get the dub and mediate this thing out? But they don't even want to come to the table. And Darkwood Presents says all these people that are against what they call a coup in the United States and what they call fascism, they are for a coup and fascism in the Ukraine. And we can take a look at that because let's be honest, Volodymyr Zelensky is not the greatest president they've had. He's not a great leader. He arrests his political opponents. He silences news media. And then and there's the allegations of his generals taking money off the top. And then we can go look at this. So Zelensky, Ukraine arrest, arrest opposition leader. Okay, so this is a big story that was trending, right? So let's look at this. Okay, so according to Ukraine Putin, or let me see, I'm trying to get to the actual story here. Let's see if it's this one. I think so. Zelensky says Ukraine captured pro-Putin politician Viktor Mechev, who escaped house arrest. Okay, so this guy is basically a Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky announced his operant capture of pro-Kremlin politician in Ukraine. Okay, so this is a pushback he's getting. He's arresting Ukrainian politicians who don't agree with him. He's silencing, media who doesn't agree with him. And he's also, involuntarily rounding up young men in the streets and forcing conscriptions. Should we look at those videos? I think we can find a bunch of those videos. They're crazy videos of them actually like stealing, men from Ukraine. Let's see if we can pull that up. Ukraine conscription. Let's see if you can pull a video of this up. Or hold up. Kidnap. Okay. Let's see if you can find this. Okay, so stuff like this, they're forcing it. And there's more like that too, all over social media.
Що таке? Що случилось? Я перепрошую! Я перепрошую! Що треба? Що происходит?
Yeah, and it just keeps going on. Dark Word said, yes, the government in Ukraine that is there and now came from a coup that happened in February 2014. Yeah, that's interesting that, how fast Zelensky rose to power from being a comedian to the president of the president of Ukraine, you know, Uh, but yeah, tons of videos like this of just straight up kidnapping young men and forcing subscriptions to Ukraine to fight this pointless war that Ukraine doesn't want to stop, and then you understand why there's backlash when we see articles like this that say that Trump and Zelensky keep clashing, and what for? Your men are dying. You're losing support. I mean, what else does Zelensky need? You know, so I think that's a good discussion on the Ukraine Russia war. We're gonna keep updating with that. There's a lot to get to um, in terms of that. Um, let me see. You just sent me something, Dark was. Let me see if I can open that up real fast. Um, let me see. Okay, is it this one right here? Okay, so yeah, appreciate you for sending that link, Darkwood. So Russian officials are accusing Ukrainian troops of killing civilians in the Kursk regions, citing two videos of human remains. Here's what we know. Okay, what happened on January 18th? Russian state news, citing a source from Russian security agency, reported that remains of several civilians have been found in the village of that Russia village occupied Kirk. The village had been recaptured by Russian troops just a week earlier, according to a report. Bodies were discovered in the basements of two residential buildings. Okay, there's a lot here. Let me see. So, so basically, it says Russian officials were quick to blame the deaths on Ukraine. Okay, so this basically says that there are incidents of Ukrainian troops and their military massacring innocent people in Russian territories, which they've occupied too, and it's a back and forth. It's Ukraine occupying Russia, Russia occupying Ukraine. Um, yeah, and that's just an interesting story, because we really don't hear about that, especially in the mainstream news media, Dark Woods, and I mean, that's the same narrative as if like how innocent are they? Who knows? Okay. And here's the second one you showed me. So let's see if you can show this one, guys. Okay, so this one, Russian officials are accusing Ukraine troops of killing civilians in Kursk region. Okay, got that. Yeah. But it's interesting down here, it says, according to their government, they didn't know about this, they had no idea that their military was roaming wild. And think about this, it's easy to take revenge back on innocent Russians, because if you're Ukraine and you've been occupied by Russia and you've been invaded by Russia, then you want to get some revenge back, and you take their revenge out on their soldiers, or you take it back on innocent Russian civilians. Because remember, Ukraine launched a counteroffensive into Russian territory. So we know that part for sure, and that's interesting. Appreciate you for sharing that. But yeah, let's keep going. But yeah, let's transition to this next story. Um, so Donald Trump and obviously Caroline Levitt, announced earlier today, April 23rd, 2025, that they're restoring equality of opportunity and meritocracy. Okay, this is a big story around, I guess the culture of merit and the culture of, DEI and the culture war between that. There's obviously a lot of discussions between that. A lot of people are outraged of, the process between hiring and firing these last couple years. Caroline Levitt had a huge, reaction to like uh how many Fortune 500 companies have just hired women and women of color, and then men of color. And then, that's basically it. So they put an executive order, stating that, let's see, by authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, a bedrock principle. Okay, we don't have to read all this. Let me see if they have a section where it just says, uh, on the meritocracy part. Let me see if you can find that. Okay. I don't know if it's in the first one, but like stuff like this, guys. It says, um, a bedrock principle of the United States is that all citizens are treated equally under the law. This principle guarantees equality of opportunity, not equal outcomes. It promises that people are treated as individuals, not components or particular race or group. It encourages meritocracy and colorblind society, not race. Based on sex or favoritism, okay, and this is a huge story. People can say, this is a dub for, I guess, the movement of the conservatives and the MAGA populists, but is this going to achieve anything in order to, actually fundamentally change how people are hiring in America? um but right here it says that, let's see. Within 45 days, think about this. Within 45 days of the date this order, the Attorney General and the Chair of Equal Employment Opportunity Commission shall assess all pending investigations, civil suits, or positions taken in ongoing matters under every federal civil rights law within their respective jurisdiction. Okay, so basically saying that Pam Bondi and, the secretary of this other department are going to enforce this. They're going to force this, restoring equal of opportunity and meritocracy. And think about this, guys. That means they're going to try to eliminate, actual DEI programs that, that are in organizations or in private firms or public firms that receive, government funding. you know Donald Trump and obviously, his base, Stephen Miller was talking about this earlier too. They really are trying to push the narrative that, uh it's like a systemic wokeness in terms of like how the establishment and people, deep inside these liberal progressive means are actually fundamentally hiring and seeing the world. But yeah, this is like a think about it like a paradigm shift, a massive paradigm shift, what's going on. Um, you know, Darkwood Presents said Russia had a massive humanitarian effort for the Ukraine occupied territories. There were more civilians into apartment buildings and are feeding and closing all of them. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look at that. Definitely some human rights atrocities happening on either side of that. But yeah, quickly going back to this point because this happened today. This is breaking news, obviously. Um, will this be enforced, and how offensive is this? First of all, people saying, "Is this racist? Does this benefit people of privilege? Does this benefit people who have more access to education? Does this benefit people who are elitists? Who knows? White people, Asians." And then people obviously on the MAGA side, America First, are saying, no, it's right. This is exactly what we voted for. This is America First. This is being about merit, going colorblind, not seeing things through, oppressed or oppression, victim or victimhood mentality, through gender, through sex, through race, all this kind of culture war stuff, we've been battling for the past, last, decade, last 20 years. Cultural phenomenons happening. Are we gonna get back to what we would call civil normalized society? I don't want to come off like some extremist, but you know what? Before the pronouns movement and before this, transgender movement, was culture wars, subdued because everybody obviously got emotional when Trump got into office, but then everything broke out, into racism and sexism, inequality and stuff like that. So it's definitely interesting to see that Donald Trump and the White House are taking positions like this, taking full on meritocracy positions, and then they want to enforce it too. So, we're going to have to see where that goes. There's a lot to get into with that too. Um, but yeah, let's keep going and let's keep finding some more stuff. Yeah, comment what you guys think is the most biggest news today, what we should talk about. Drop a question below if you want me to answer it. But yeah, let's keep going. Let's find some more stories. So what's trending in the news today? So two major law firms urge judge to permanently block Trump's executive orders. Oh, okay. Doge trolling, ransomware hackers demand 1 trillion. Oh, we might get into that. And how Laura Loomer and other far right users saw their ex engagements. Okay, Robert F. Kennedy comments on autism takes America back a century, according to the New York Times. CNN says convicted cardinal demands to be a part of the conclave to choose a new pope, setting half the bet. Yeah, we're gonna have to get into that, bro. That's insane story, bro. Should we just read the headline for that, dude? Okay, let's just like open this up real fast. Okay, so convicted cardinal demands to be part of a conclave to choose new pope, setting up Vatican standoff. And this is what you expect within like the deep state of religion, the deep state of the Vatican. Obviously Catholicism is different from Protestant and unorthodox Christians. But yeah, I mean, look. So this is interesting. So a cardinal convicted of financial crimes by the Vatican is claiming he can take part in forthcoming conclave despite being listed as a non-elector. Cardinal Giovanni Angela Bentucci, once one of the most powerful figures in the Vatican, was ordered by Pope Francis in 2020 to resign the rights to privileges of a cardinal after he became embroiled in a Vatican financial scandal. And then we can move off the story because that's pretty fast. But obviously, I agree with notions. I mean, if you committed crime and you're a criminal, and you want to be a part of this voting process, I guess I agree with the ruling on it. But it's definitely interesting that that took headlines. That's some CNN main headlines. Like, what is CNN reporting on right now? um, but all right, let's go to this one because this has to do with deportations. All right, okay. So obviously we know. So two major law firms urged judges to permanently block Trump's executive orders. Okay. Major law firms. The way we're talking about like heavyweight billion-dollar clients, portfolios. So let's take a look. So uh According to the Associated Press, two major law firms asked separate judges Wednesday to permanently block President Trump's executive orders that were meant to punish them and harm their business operations. The firms Perkins Cole and Wilmer Hale says the order are unconstitutional assaults on the legal profession, threaten their relationships with clients, and retaliate against them based on their past legal representations of their association. Okay. Obviously, this is placed into the part back. Well, people are accusing, leftists or Marxist leftists of, judicial warfare, you know, legal warfare. Right here is happening. And think about how crazy this is. This is between uh judges and law firms. So like, and then probably state judges, appellate courts, and federal judges. I mean, it's an entire like warfare we see. We've never seen this before in the history of our country. We've never seen this before in America. The sitting president, when he signs an executive order for anything really right now, he is getting major pushback by in the enforcers who would enforce his orders. Actually, they said no. Actually, Trump, he has no credibility here. Trump has no legal authority over this jurisdiction in the United States, which he does. So think about this: American private law firms can team up with federal judges, in order to block, orders and mandates on a judicial level from the top to the bottom. This is flowing down. Appellate courts, as I said, private law firms, public law firms. Who knows who else is planning against Trump and his team. I'm not saying, and hear me out, everybody. I'm not saying that what Trump is doing, in everything he's doing is right. Something he's gotten is wrong. But when you see, outright the Associated Press, reporting that two major law firms are, urging judges to block. I mean, yeah, that's judicial warfare on a level we've never seen in this country, and it's going to be interesting how it plays out. People are making the argument that the first time in the history of this country we're actually having an establishment civil war. Should we call it that? An establishment civil war. You see, the establishment and people who are already in power, bureaucrats, unelected officials, judges who are making decisions that are ahead of what the president's, mandate or what he wants to be in place. So that's interesting. like just that concept, of just living in America, and you have judges blocking the president of the United States order. We understand the balance of power. Maybe the president is too powerful. Maybe the Supreme Court is too powerful. Maybe the judges need to take on some of that responsibility. But I think it's unfair, and it's definitely interesting to see that this isn't right. And I want to get to the quote, right? Because there's a main quote that goes here. Let's see if you can find the quote. Okay, right here. So, guys, the entire executive order is retaliatory. Dane Butsky, a lawyer who presented arguments on behalf of Perkins Coie, told the judge the U.S. District Judge Howell did not immediately rule on the firm's request, but she repeatedly expressed deep unease over the executive order, signaling that she was inclined to side with the Perkins and Cole, bro. So they're saying that they're actually um siding with these law firms against Trump. You know, um, and I see you sent me something, Darkwoods. Let me see if I can pull that up. But yeah, just to wrap this story up, in my personal opinion, I think the president, or we should have a balance of power. But if you're telling me that we can have multiple judges and appellate courts weigh in against the president on these various issues, unanimously, then I think that the president of the United States, in some regards, deserves to have some of his mandates, you know, to be implemented. But yeah, we can skip that. Going back, let's find some other stories that are trending today. Let's see, let's see. Okay, so you sent me this Darkwood presents. So according to the New York Post, this month, April 18th, wow, this month, last week, Tim Wall, state employee, allegedly caused 20K damage in vandalizing Teslas weeks after governor mocked automaker stock prices. Are you kidding me, dude? This headline just writes itself, dude. All right, let's see. Let's see. Of course. Okay. So right here, a Minnesota state employee was reportedly busted for allegedly causing approximately 20,000 in damage while vandalizing Teslas just weeks after failed vice president candidate and Governor Tim Walz publicly mocked electric cars. Struck me. Okay. Let's see. So Brian Adams, a 33-year-old fiscal policy analyst for North Star State, was arrested on suspicion of keying multiple Teslas in Minnesota. Okay. But I want to see where the Tim Walz comes from. Let me see if we can find this. Here's the guy right here, guys. Here's that sucker right here. This is Dylan Adams, dude. Dylan Adams, who's caught vandalizing Teslas. Right? That guy right there. Boom. Dude, he's probably facing like a couple felonies, a couple $10,000 in debt, or he needs to pay. He has to pay for the car. He's just taking L's all the way. This is the Democratic Party. But it came down to right here, people are saying. Dark represents said the three branches have equal power. Only one person in Gov has broad powers, and they are voted by all the voters that is a president. And that's an interesting point you make, Dark Woods, um, because the president of the United States is the only elected official in our nation, the United States of America, who everybody votes on. All the electoral colleges, all the people voted on, the representatives vote for, other people vote for. Unlike senators or governors or Congress people. Yeah, you're right. So in all reality, not saying Trump should be king, but if you have such a mandate and you get the election results like he did, then some of the things should be implemented. But here, just to get back to this story, um, it's interesting that people are siding with this guy. Now think about this: the alleged vandal is more than one of 40,000 state employees the rep added. Okay. Um, and this guy said suspected arrest comes nearly after Wall said nothing was happening in his town. And it's funny because obviously Walt and the Democrats in that party in Minnesota are obviously taking sides and mass protesting against um, the oligarchy, Elon Musk and Tesla. And think about this. Minnesota and their people have been through so much. I mean, culture war after culture war. So Black Lives Matter, they burn down their city for those protests, And then when Elon Musk gets in, they're mass protesting against the oligarchy. King Tesla is burning, calling Republicans and everybody fascists and Nazis. So yeah, I mean, stuff like this just annoys me. And then when you see people like Walls, stand up there and say that, what, actually, it's our just our fr- it's our freedom and it's our right to express ourselves in the manner that we perceive is just. A key in cars has nothing to do with political discourse. So appreciate you for sending me the article, Dark Woods. That's definitely an interesting one. I definitely disagree with the narrative that violence is the answer or massive protest is the answer. I think the discourse is, but let's see, and then let's move on to more stories. Okay, so here's a big one right here. So Doge trolling ransomware hackers demand $1 trillion. Okay, dude, this is according to Forbes, guys. According to Forbes, Doge trolling ransomware hackers demand $1 trillion. Okay, let's read this. So okay, let's see this. So the same criminal group behind Doge Big Balls ransomware attack has just upped an ante. A newly updated ransom note is now using Elon Musk and Doge references with a demand for, are you sitting down, $1 trillion from victims. Okay, dude, this is like a massive backfire, dude. Um, obviously, we know that the Doge or people of Doge have been hacked, in the past and previously. Um, but yeah, it's just interesting that these people, these bots, we don't know if it's real or fake, are threatening the Doge team and Elon Musk for I guess the downsizing of government, but I don't understand their point. So like stuff like this that they're reporting, it says although there is no doubt that ransomware threats should be taken very seriously, that with a massive surge in ransomware attacks this year, new password cracking tools have been employed to gain initial access, and some very concerning political motives by big names is extortion racketing industry. Not all the players take themselves seriously, it would seem. Okay, so even from this, they're very skeptical of these threats. They're very skeptical if this is real or not. Um, and obviously, Elon Musk is taking immense heat right now. Okay, so think about this, guys. Um, not oh, let me answer this. Okay, so Dark Woods first said, "Who would have thought that scammers would pretend to be Elon Musk and Doge?" you know, yeah, and that's a good point. Because somehow they played themselves as a Trojan horse. A Trojan horse, as an Elon Musk and some infiltrator, uh, and it's interesting. And then you said, no, on X, some guy claiming to be Musk try to get me to invest. LOL. And yeah, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. We have to be very precise in who we trust and who we give our attention to in this industry. Obviously, there's one team in the Doge, and there's one person, Elon Musk. But they're both, hear this out. They're both temporary government employees. Doge is a temporary government agency. Nothing is super official yet. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going out there. People are getting hacked. People's information is getting turned over. They're investigating people too, and it's a big rift right now in between, what's perceived as, the billionaire cleaning up, government's mess, and or a fight against the billionaires trying to take over the country. And obviously people of a lower class, middle class, are siding against Elon Musk. They said that they think it's wrong that he's doing it the way he's doing it, etc. But when it comes to stories like this, it's definitely interesting to see who tries to grab the mantle, who is really benefiting. Are there any, is there any facades going on behind the scenes? And yeah, but yeah, to finish it off, let's look. I mean, let's look if we should do this. I mean, so right here, I mean, this is just a take in the, in the article. So should you take the Doge ransom note seriously? The ransom, uh, such thing as imperative. You do not think that just because the attackers might not act like clowns, the threat isn't it serious? Okay, so they're saying it might be serious or it's not. Um, Darkwood says, Doge only gives recommendations. They can't change any data themselves. And that's the thing, right now, nothing has been cut officially by Elon Musk. Everything's been cut by the order of Donald Trump and his, administration. But you're right, um, who's really calling the shots? It's definitely Trump. People say he's being controlled by Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the real president of the United States. But in all reality, he's only there as a senior advisor, giving him, like you said, Darkwoods, recommendations for cutting fraud, waste, and abuse, and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's definitely an interesting plan that. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's see what else we got, guys. Okay, so what's the net worth puts more than 1% top? Okay, I want to see what is going on right here. Okay, this says New York Times, Trump pressures Ukraine to accept peace deal. Okay, we got that. BBC, 5 cards. Oh, okay, this is an interesting. So, according to the BBC, 5 cards China holds in trade war with the US. Okay. Let's see if we can pull up the story, guys. Okay, so according to the BBC reported 5 hours ago, 5 cards China holds in a trade war with the US. Okay. And before I get to that, let me answer some of these comments. Dark Represent said, yeah, there are probably real scammers. Scammers actually try to impersonate real people or agencies all the time. I definitely agree with that. And who knows, some of those scammers that Doge and everybody talk about are probably some Chinese or some like Indian guy in Pakistan from a call center. How can I help you? You know? Trying to get the no, don't bring up the Andrew Tate impression of the Indian guy. But no, seriously, like whoever's hacking us is not America first. They're probably from a foreign nation trying to get at us. But yeah, that's a good point, Darkwoods. But moving on to the story. So here's 5 cards China holds. Okay, so I guess we get start off by here. A trade war between the world's two biggest economies is now full swing. Chinese exports to face U.S. face up to 245% tariffs, and Beijing has hit back with a 125 levy on American imports. Consumers, businessmen, and markets are braced for more uncertainty as fears of global recession have heightened. And then Chinese President Xi Jinping government has repeatedly said it is open to dialogue, but warned that if it's necessary, it would fight to the end. Okay? And think about this. Look how crazy this number is, guys. Chinese exports to US face up to 245%, bro. I mean, you don't even want to sell. You just put yourself right out of business, dude. You know, like that's that is basically saying like you have no business in this market. Because it's not even like a 2-time% levy, a 50-50 even trade off. Hell no. We're saying you get the hell out of here. Um, and yeah, so can China take the pain to a point? Let's see. So China is the world's second largest economy, which means it can absorb the impacts of tariffs and other smaller countries. True, it's gonna take them a while for them to fold. That's what they're saying. That's one point. Um, China has been investing in the future. Okay, and that's the second point that's in favoring I guess China. They do have more innovations than us in terms of AI and technological advancements right now, but not all time. So that's one point to keep in mind. And then lessons learned from Trump 1.0. So they're basically saying that China is more equipped to fight Trump this time around than last time around. China's more prepared. They understand his you know, like how he presents himself. Um, and then what else? So and then this is another point. China knows when Trump will blink. Dude, what kind of article is this, dude? This is like CCP propaganda. But this is reported by the BBC. China knows when Trump will blink. I mean, that is like full on biased in its freaking headlines. So I want to hear what they have to say. So according to the BBC, Trump held firm as stocks plummeted following the sweeps tariffs announced early April, likening his staggering levies to medicine. But he made a U-turn, pausing most of those tariffs for 90 days after a sharp sell-off in government bonds. Also, okay, so they're saying like they're calling his bluff. That's basically what they're saying. But I disagree with that. I mean, the international community, Europe might think that, China might think that, but America First MAGA don't think he's gonna blink. The only reason Donald Trump flipped his position is because he gave other countries who weren't able to meet with Trump within that time 90 days to come to a deal. That's the only reason. He didn't flip flop. He didn't blink. He didn't fold. He didn't bluff. Actually, he called the bluff. He still has the tariffs on. But let's keep going. What else was Trump? So look. So this is what they're saying. So the BBC is basically saying China could win this tariff war because it has a chokehold on rare earth mineral. Is that their last point they're making? That's their last point. So let's read this point. Um, so what China can weaponize, however, is its near monopoly on extracting and refining rare earth and a range of elements and ports advanced tech manufacturing. Okay. So let's see. China has a huge deposits of these, such as which is used in magnets and electric vehicles. Okay, jet turbines, wind turbines. Okay, they're saying Beijing has already responded to Trump's latest tariffs by restricting exports of several rare earth minerals, including some of the essential for making AI chips. Okay, and look at this one right here. This one is very interesting. The monopoly China has. China accounts for about 61% of rare earth production and 92% of their refining, according to estimates by International Energy Agency. Which, while Australia, Japan, and Vietnam have begun mining for rare earth, it will take years before China can cut off this. I mean, yeah. So that's the thing that they have on us, and that's the news. But bringing back to this main point, right? Is China? Let me get to some of these comments. Darkwood presents it. China is having a really hard time because a billion Chinese don't have the same buying power that the U.S. public does. Yeah, I mean, their ghost cities, their population is declining. They're not having babies. The boomers are, grasping all the money, the wealth income equality. Xi Jinping, the dictator. I agree with that comment. Your next comment, you said, there's a good thing here that Chinese workers might actually get to go home for once in years. And that's the thing. If they do hold off, or if they do fold, that will be bad for the Chinese government, but that would be good for the Chinese people. In essence, of a labor extortation. But yeah, so wrapping this up, so five cards China holds in trade war. Obviously, they're saying it has allies. It has, it has more people as of right now. I guess it has more rare earth minerals. It has more technological investments and advancements right now, according to what they say. Um, you know and at the same time, they didn't mention, but China has bricks on their side. Okay, we can get into bricks. Okay, but China, if it were to come down to like the fight for global manufacturing dominance, then yeah, bricks will get involved, and this can actually get very ugly. um Darkwood presents that we have secret technology that is classified like supersonic drones. And that's the thing. And that's the thing that it's different. So look, um, okay, so right here, China has been investing in the future, and it goes to your point of like we also have technological superiority over these people. I mean, who the fuck is China to think that they can, run our stuff for our money, and also come off like they're not stealing our um intellectual property, they're not stealing our AI property, they're not stealing Apple technology, because Apple phones are built in China but they're American made, or American, like like invented. But to get to that, does that hurt or help America? I think it's a negative for China. I don't think, because China is not the United States in terms of like the free world, the pinnacle of the West, Western civilization, freedom. China doesn't have that talking point. The only point that China really has is a manufacturing and production base that is bigger than ours. But again, their population is declining. They're having less babies. Actually, China is in the middle of a uh not only an economic crisis because they're in the middle of a tariff war, but China is in a humanitarian crisis. They need more Chinese babies, according to them. And we can look at the birth decline in China, because this is gonna go for the tariff things. I mean, how dry can we suck these Chinese bastards? I mean, seriously. I mean, you want to bleed them until they bleed out, and we could do that. They are extorting their labor, their population. It's unfair. It's not right. Meanwhile, their base is dying off. So let's look at this Chinese population decline. Okay, this is devastating for them. Okay, let's look at this graph, guys. Okay, so here's the decline. Okay, so China's population stood at 1.4 billion at the end of 2024, a decline of 1,390,000 million people from the previous year. The figures announced by the government in Beijing follow trends worldwide, but especially in the East Asia, where Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong, and other nations have seen their birth rates plummeted. And that's true. It's not just China, it's all the Asians. It's all the Asians. It's the South Koreans, the North Koreans, the Japanese, the Philippines, the Chinese, Malaysia. Um, I mean, name the other Asian countries. They're just not having babies. Their women just their women don't want to give it up. Apparently, dude. So think about this. Not only is China in the middle of facing, and we can get back to the other article, China in the middle of an existential crisis of their own civilization, but they're also getting into this tariff war with us, which is going to be come down to the needy and greedy. you know Only the Chinese elites can prevail, only the Chinese establishment will prevail. you know and it's interesting to see how they're fighting back, and they think it's resistance because they're on the verge of extinction, I guess. Well, let's keep going. That was an interesting story, guys, for sure. Here, let's hop into some alternate news media. Let's see what the anti-establishment free market has to say. So yeah, let's see what trending, guys. What is trending on Twitter today? Biggest stories. Uh, Dan Bongino's number one. I mean, what's Dan Bongino doing? Um, Pambani, Cash Patel, and Dan Bongino, after spending a lifetime of fooling Trump supporters into thinking they've, obviously people are taking shots saying, um, they're not doing it. But to transition, hold up. Get to the last comment about China. Dark represents that Chinese women are demanding high salaries for marriage, and that's why it's driving the low birth rate. Geez, they have a bigger. China has a bigger feminist problem than we do. If that's what it takes in order to for them not to have a declining population, the existence of their population depends on how much the women are going to get paid. Yeah, global feminism they call it. Um, let's see. Okay. And people are saying, so this is a video that's going around. So I want this Dan Bongino in the FBI. Let's see.
They were going to back down. You're wrong. You're wrong. The only thing that is going to stop the FBI from doing what they're doing now, which has become full-time activists and bouncers, and in many cases thugs for the Democrat Party, is imposing real material losses on them. Fire everyone involved in this stuff. Everyone, no excuses. Disband the entity. It is the only way at this.
Okay, and let's look at what the pushback was. And guys, this was yesterday. Look at that. It got 1.9 million views, dude. That's how much that blew up. And people are saying, so people like this are saying, what happened to all of them? Kash Patel was supposed to make the Hoover Building a museum for the deep state. Trump was supposed to be America first and anti-war. RFK was supposed to be about fighting vaccines. Pam Bondi was supposed to give us the legit Epstein JK files. Where are these people now? And that's pushback on America first. That's pushback on MAGA. That's pushback on Donald Trump's populist movement, saying, hold up. We had negotiations. We wanted the deep state to be attacked, and it's not happening right now. And look at these comments up here. This is very important what the free market has to say. So this person says, I have stood by so many, but the main one I have always had confidence in and have lost friends and family for, a diehard Trump supporter. We have seen nothing happen for American people. No lower prices, no lower interest rates, no tax cuts. No one has been arrested. Was MAGA movement ever worth it? Okay, and these are, this is disappointing comments coming from people, I guess who did have faith, saying, if they're losing faith in the particular idea that, what, this battle for the establishment and against our government, it's not happening right now. I want to see what everybody's saying. So MAGA Michelle says it's been a month. Everybody is so damn impatient. Chris Moore said the Democrats were too slow in investigating and charging Trump, and we know that's all turned out. Okay, and stuff like that. Um, Darkwoods presented the Trump term still has 3 years and 9 months left. You ain't seen nothing yet. And that's the thing. I agree with you too. Like it's definitely still on early. You know, and that's the thing too. Like, is it going to be this year, next year, for the midterms, the year after that? We're going to see how far Trump takes this position. But obviously, people on the right. I mean, that blew up 1.9 million views. Are having opinions opposed to Donald Trump, Cash Patel, and Pam Bondi. And think about this, Darkwood presents and everybody watching. Who's done a worse job? Cash Patel, the FBI director, or Pam Bondi, the attorney general? I think that, in a sense, Pam Bondi it had failed more than Cash Patel. Obviously, people are going to be pointing at Cash Patel saying he hyped up the FBI thing too much. But in all reality, it's Pam Bondi who should be getting the heat. It's Pam Bondi, this woman who for the first 3 weeks did a media hype tour of how she's gonna drop the Epstein list. Instead, she dropped the Epstein list with all the redactions, and then she withdrew it, and then she dropped the JFK list. So we didn't really get the Epstein file. And I hear what you're saying. Darkwood presents. Maybe we should wait and have patience with Trump. But but that means she shouldn't have gone on that media tour of the Epstein files. She shouldn't have hyped it up. So we keep the same energy when it comes to people criticizing Trump and people supporting Trump. It gets the same kind of scrutiny everybody else should. Even though I definitely agree with some what Donald Trump is doing. But yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep seeing what's trending. Besides this damn Bongino clip. And then here's so this was 1 hour ago. I mean, he's just trending. It says, 1 hour ago, time to get ready for Lad Don Bongino. If you fully support Dan Bongino, work is doing at the FBI. And people are saying this because they don't want him to get fired because things are moving slowly. But we're gonna see how it goes on and who's gonna get the boot. Donald Trump's known for firing some people in his administration. Who's gonna be the first to go out of everybody who was I guess sworn in by the Senate? Um, And then just more people just reaffirming their trust for Dan Bongino, I guess. Um, let's see. I think that's it for I guess the criticism he's getting for today. But that's interesting that he's trending #1 in Twitter. But let's keep going. What else is trending, guys? So Dan Bongino, Bitcoin 2025, where is Doge, Yale, Cash, Epstein. So let's get back into where's Doge because I know a lot of Americans want to look at this story. But before we get to that, let me answer this comment. Dark Represent said, "Well, the swamp is deep. When you drain a real swamp, it is always deeper than you think. And likewise, the FBI is full of whacked liberals that have been shaken out." Okay. And that's an interesting comment, saying, how deep does it run? How big is the establishment? How big is the deep state? And who is mainly in charge of this, establishment? I call establishment, Dark Woods, and everybody listening, hear me out. I call establishment not really the deep state because I think establishment is more appropriate for the controlling powers. And we can see them right in front of our face, people, who are part of like BlackRock, Vanguard, these multi-billion venture capitalist companies, corporations who are buying up other companies, are controlling industries, controlling net worth. But in terms of like deep state, FBI, CIA, I have a pretty good insight into this. And hear me out. And then Dark represents it. Cash Patel is under threat, and he had to hire a private security team protecting him from the FBI. Okay. But here's my take on the deep state, and this is what I truly believe, everybody. I'll give you my personal opinion right now. So I believe the deep state in America is the CIA. I don't think it's the courts. I don't think it's the FBI. I don't think it's billionaires. I don't even think it's, autocrats and bureaucrats. I think it's the CIA because the Central Intelligence Agency controls everything. Everybody reports to the Central Intelligence Agency. It's the main one, the CIA. The FBI reports to it. The CIA reports to it. I mean, the TSA reports to it. What else? Homeland Security reports to the CIA. The Educational Department reports to the CIA. Even the food companies and pharmaceutical companies report to the CIA. So you can make a case that the CIA and that book we've all read, Chaos, with and the 1960s and Charles Manson. This entire book of how powerful the CIA is. Are they really running the show? Is that the deep state you're talking about? I'm talking about what Donald Trump's talking about. Because that's not the FBI. The FBI is not the deep state. Sorry to burst your bubbles, everybody. The deep state's probably in the CIA, which also probably killed JFK too. So, if they want to get rid of the FBI, that's good, but that's not the main problem. The main problem is the Central Intelligence Agency. Focus on that. Why are you focusing on the FBI? You know, uh, and that's my thing too, Dark Woods. Hear me out. Like, if you're gonna focus on eradicating a deep state or a foreign entity power like foreign influence and all that stuff, it goes through the Central Intelligence Agency, and then it's all around expanded and vetted through the nearly all the bureaucratic intelligence agencies like the TSA and like the FBI, and then it goes. It's like the head of the snake, right? So, and Dan Bongino needs to be very clear, and we don't have any compromisations. Um, Will Tab, thank you for joining the conversation. Appreciate you for tuning in. Said, "Are you Christian?" Um, uh, I am not super religious. I'm an independent, but if I had to pick a religion, it'd be Christianity. And I agree with the conservatives more than liberals, and I agree with Republicans more than Democrats. That's my position, and I think Christianity is. If I had to pick religion, that'd be the true religion. But besides my personal religious takes, getting back to the story, while the agencies trade people with the companies they are meant to oversee, like the FDA hires food companies, employees, vice versa. They have bonuses for a place to take jobs in the FDA. Okay. Interesting point there, Darkwoods. Appreciate you. Earl of the Laurel, welcome to the live stream. Appreciate you for stopping by. Said the problem with this theory is the CIA doesn't always profit. The forces the CIA always profit. The forces CIA works for always profit. Um, and let me dive deep into that. And that's the thing. Um, the problem with the series of CIA. So look, the CIA, I think, is a Trojan horse. I'm not saying the people in it are benefiting, the people who control it benefiting, but it's a Trojan horse for the establishment. It's a Trojan horse for the people who are actually controlling these everyday agents, everyday Americans who are hardworking people. You know, in the form, and hear me out, Earl of the Laurel. It's not that they're profiting or they get a benefit, but they're setting our society up to the point where they're benefiting like long term, like a systematic benefit, like a matrix kind of benefit, because it's not benefiting them short term or their families right now, but in the end all their shady stuff that the CIA has done, like you said, the forces behind the CIA has profited immensely. And honestly, we can do a book review, and maybe we bring it up next time, of the chaos in Charles Manson in the late 1960s. We've seen that book cover, um, and it's a great book, guys. Here, let me see if I can pull it up real fast. Chaos, Charles Manson. Okay, and this goes into like, is it the FBI? Is it the deep state? Is it the CIA? Let me see. So this book right here, everybody knows this book. You've seen it on this book, is it's um it basically just talks about how deep this problem goes, because it's only just one faction, I guess, of this CIA, but there's many branches within there. Earlier said all the federal agencies have been captured by corporations. Okay, I like that point. Darkwood said there's a big problem with the CIA where they create problems that the US has to spend money to solve it. It is a history of this. And then Earl Laura said, responded, think Butler talking about making South and Central America safe for the United Fruit Company. Okay. And Devilish, I appreciate you for joining in the conversation too. Hello there. But yeah, going back to what Earl the Laurel and Darkwood said. So the CIA, is notorious for not only, and hear me out, guys, you know, assassinations, foreign wars, foreign intervention, foreign influence, um, blackmailing, sex rings, human trafficking, deep state propaganda, I mean, dude, I mean, the list goes on and on of like how un-American our deep state is in terms of like looking from a CIA perspective. Because think about it, even like people who grew up in the '60s or people who are like experts in what we're talking about right now, the conversation we're having, point to the CIA. They point to Charles Manson, you know, MLK Ultra, who's really running this, who's really coming up with the food industry. Because think about it, who approves the food things? And our education system, our central intelligence agency, the CIA, they have to approve which books everybody in the world, everybody in the United States gets to read. They approve, the foods we have. So how nefarious is how big this goes is interesting. Maybe I'm, wrong. I just went off a huge rabbit hole, everybody. That's a huge, question you just asked me. Sorry if I just lost you and I got confusing. But in my opinion, the deep state would be the CIA, not the FBI. Pam Bondi is completely wrong. Pam Bondi is full of shit. Dark Represents said we should not have an intelligence agency in peacetime. And that's the thing, right? We already won our wars. we're still in the Middle East. I get that, but to your point, yeah, that's crazy right there. Um, but yeah, I mean, let's keep. Okay, so Epstein's trending too, right? What should we pick? Cash Patel or Epstein? Let's do I guess we'll do Cash. Or let's do Epstein. This is trending bigger. Earlier though, let's get this comment before we move on. The CIA does all the stuff you say. They just don't do it on the behalf of the wealthy entities. However, I'd agree that they have their own agenda when it comes to total control of the populace. And that's a good comment. Maybe it's not on the behalf of wealthy entities, but well, like I said, and hear me out, guys. That's a good comment, Earl Villar. I don't think it's wealthy people because there's a difference between 1% elitist and wealthy. Because think about this: you can be wealthy but not influential, wealthy and not in the 1%, wealthy and not invited to the party. You can be influential and not wealthy. You can be influential and poor, and then the 1% is interesting. Hear me out. The 1% is the only category where it's a mix of both and even more. Okay? Because and the 1% is defined as a club of elitism, elite nepotism in a form, elitists. So on the tier of you're talking about, I don't think the wealthy is controlled, but definitely the influential people who might not always be wealthy, like you said. They're not always the donors or the wealthy entities, but they are the influential people that are always in their background. They're always watching, they're always controlled, they're always manipulating and puppet mastering. But yeah, that's a good comment right there for sure. But let's keep going. Oh, look at this. Okay, so according to Twitter, Epstein's trending. People said if Doge has found billions in fraud and abuse, why haven't there been any arrests? Okay. Here's another one that's trending. So we are clear. Epstein list is in their hands. No arrest. Doge pointing out fraud/abuse. No arrest. Gain of function and lab leak proven. No arrests. Clinton's proved to be behind the Russia hoax. No arrest. When will they start seeing accountability? Just asking for the American people. And these are MAGA people. These are America First people commenting on. We have all this corruption. We have all this evidence of nefarious entities. Nobody's being arrested. The deep state's still living. The deep state's still thriving. And then Cash Patel and Pam Bondi are like, the FBI is the deep state. No, it's not. They're completely missed the point, bro. And I agree with other MAGA people. And I know you disagree, Darkwoods, that we need to give them time. But they're missing the ball in terms of who we actually need to be held accountable. Take all the time you need. But, Fauci, the Wuhan lab, Russia, the Clintons, other scandals, George Soros. I mean, we already have people on the list. Should we take our time? Yes or no? Um, Devilish said they have circles inside secret circles. They have an establishment of the establishment. Yeah, and I agree with that. Maybe it's nefarious, more nefarious than we think. It can be like the Illuminati. The Illuminati has an organization, and then an organization in the organization. It's crazy rabbit hole we're going down right now. My mind's exploding. Darkwood presents it. That's what I was getting at with the Russian Revolution. You should take some time to share what I was telling you on X. And for sure, we're gonna break that down. I need to do some more refinement on that. I'm gonna do definitely a hit piece on that for sure. Darkwoods. That's definitely a lot to get back there. And I know you sent that to me yesterday. I still got to do a lot of information on that. Devilish said MAGA, and then Darkwood said no, they do not need time. The deep state is in the cogs, and the wheel is in the government. And that's a unique perspective on how people on the spectrum of theories out there are leading to and presenting facts like that. So good point. Let's see. Let's keep going. Um, so is this her right now? So this was yesterday. If Bonnie wants to eradicate anti-Christian bias in society, she should start with pushing people on the satanic Epstein client list is on her desk. Is this it? Let me see if this is it, guys.
We're excited to be here for the launch of the Task Force to Eradicate Anti-Christian Bias as outlined in the President's Executive Order. Joining me today are members of the task force and individuals who have been impacted by the anti-Christian bias. Together, this task force will identify any unlawful anti-Christian policies, practices, or conduct across the government, seek input from the faith-based organizations and state governments.
Okay, we get that part. I don't know how that's trending with the Epstein part. I guess because it's the title. But I want to see specifically the Epstein question. Okay, the Epstein question, guys. Okay, so this is a quote from President Trump. Let's see if this is a video. Let's see if this works.
When can we expect the Epstein documents to be released? The rest of them?
Which documents?
The Epstein files?
I don't know. I'll speak to the Attorney General about that. I really don't know. I know that we've done the RFK. The Kennedy, Martin Luther King is out there very shortly, so we'll find out. But we've really announced we're doing them in full transparency. When we did JFK, people were saying, "Oh, maybe it wasn't all; it was all," and people actually went up to the office and they looked at some things that were, not really easily available, and they were amazed that we gave it all. And I don't know if it solved any problems for people. People still have questions one way or the other, but that I'm not. But 100% of all of these documents are being delivered.
I like that. I like that messaging. He said 100% of these documents are going to be delivered sooner or later. And this is the thing, like, we shouldn't criticize Trump because he has a lot on his plate. He's the president. But the main people is definitely Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump's done phenomenal. Donald Trump has a lot on his plate. He's the president of the United States. He doesn't have to focus on these redacted files. For people like us, though, who are anti-establishment, I mean, that's one of our main focuses, right? It's not only just the Epstein files. I mean, the biggest files, think about this, guys. The biggest files out there is not even the Epstein thing. It's the 9/11 files. Obviously Martin Luther King files on UFO files, UFO unredacted classified files. Since Roswell, since the inception of this country, we've had like alien conspiracy theories and UFO conspiracy theories, but the government during their government hearings doesn't even want to put out those files. So yes, there's a lot on this table. We're not going to blame Donald Trump for it, but the people around him we can't criticize. But I like that from Trump, and I appreciate that. But yeah, let's keep going. And this is a part of it, I guess. We can play this short clip. It's a minute long. This is, I guess, Elon Musk and Joe Rogan on the Epstein files. Let's see.
I mean, I think Pam Bondi is actually great, and Kash Patel are great, but they just got there,
Right.
So then they just got there, but they're in a hostile environment. They're not in a friendly environment.
Right.
it's like if you suddenly got put in captain of a ship, but the crew was previously your enemy.
Right.
The entire crew was
Right.
previously your enemy. It's not like you have like magical powers. You get made captain of a ship with a hostile crew. You still have a hostile crew.
Right.
You've got to bring in people who are going to, be helpful as opposed to obstructionist.
Right.
But yeah, I think the public will be rightly frustrated if no one is prosecuted for the Epstein client list, no one at all. Like at least, I don't know, the top 5 or something, like some number. There should at least be an attempted prosecution of the worst offenders.
And that's obviously like Elon Musk's opinion on that. Darkwood said, I use the term bureaucracy most of the time because unelected government officials do not act when they are told to do so or act against their orders from the elect. And I agree with that too. The bureaucracy, the establishment, the deep state. There's a lot of terms for nefarious people. Dark Represents also said it's not that they're not aliens, but the government uses the alien conspiracies to hide what they are doing, like the super development of supersonic drones. And hey, maybe that's a thing, and that's a good point. You just put out there. Maybe because we have all these redacted files and all these wild conspiracy theories regarding our government and our military. It's for the benefit of us, or it's our actual government doing something and covering up on the pretenses of they don't want us to discover what they're doing. Who knows, but there's a lot right there, right? But yeah, let's keep going. Okay, so what else is trending? Okay, so Bitcoin, Dan Bongino, Zelensky, where's Doge, Epstein, Kiev, arrest. um let's see if we can do part of this. Yale. Okay, this is a big one. Yale's trending. I don't know why Yale's trending. Why is Yale trending? Okay. Okay. Should we do this? Okay. Should we talk about the Jews for a little bit? Anti-Semitism. Even it always comes up like this, bro. I don't know why it's always trending. Breaking news: Jewish students are being blocked from walking freely on Yale's campus again. This is not a protest. This is not free speech. This is segregation on an Ivy League campus in the year 2025. Yale's letting it happen. Okay, let's watch this video. Before I get into that, Darkwood said, like I said, the U.S. has secret technologies, and then he also said that the thing. That is a thing. They send agents to UFO investigations to spread disinformation, confusion. And yeah, we'll look at that, because I did some series into like Project Blue Book and like the origins of alien conspiracy theories are actually, part and meant like government conspiracy theories. You're right, they made it up. But yeah, that's an interesting point, and we're definitely gonna have to keep investigating that as the future holds. But yeah, let's get into this. This is a trending topic today. So this is Yale College.
This is my space too. I want to walk through my space. This is my space. I pay for this space. This isn't your space. You don't own it. Get out of my way. I want to walk here. This is my campus too. This is my campus too. I want to walk here.
Oh my gosh, guys, that is so annoying to watch. Not saying that they have the right to protest and their argument against Israel might be valid, but you know what? On an American campus funded by American taxpayers getting government funding, Yale, they have a I guess this populist movement from their students being pro-Palestine, blocking these kids again. Is that this is insane. The comment section exploding right now. Okay, this might be a little uncomfortable, but let's look at these comment sections. So this guy says preventing people from calling out the genocide or saying anti-Semitic things is also against free speech. This guy said the anti-Zionist crowd insists they aren't anti-Semitic and that Judaism and Zionism are not the same, yet they treat every visibly Jewish student as a Zionist target, preventing them from walking freely on their own campus at Yale. Their actions betray their own rhetoric. And that's the thing, dude. Like, we're not even taking sides in this, freaking argument, even if you are pro-Palestine, pro-Israel. What do Jewish students on American campuses have to do with foreign wars or foreign intervention? And again, dude, I mean, this is an entire thing, guys, and hear me out. Like, you have students of color, or just like, like woke students, protesting for the a well-being of a foreign nation in Palestine. They're protesting for the well-being of foreign nation, and they don't want to protest for the well-being of our nation. They don't want to protest in the well-being of our people. But if they sit up there and complain about, Palestinian Jews and all day, it's weird. Um, this guy said, stop talking, stop taking the Jewish community hostage. He wasn't stopped because he was Jewish, but because he's an anti-Palestinian genocide supporting racist world. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's just, people who are race baiting and rage baiting right there. I want to see what more of these controversial comments say. So this one says, um, headbutt, how the hell do you think Israel survived? Smash your forehead into the guy's nose. And this guy said, oh yeah, because they just had to walk directly through their protests against I mean, and this is the thing, dude, like, and this is what I said on Twitter too. Like, think about this. These Palestinian protests are just like the Black Lives Matter protests, just like BLM, dude. They say, you can walk around our protest. Yeah, you can go out of your way to inconveniently walk around the protest that's happening in front of everybody in front of campus. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. When they're protesting in Minneapolis, they protested and blocked the police sanctions. Um, uh, they were protesting and burning in front of people's buildings, people's apartments, and they're just like the same thing. They're just like, you can go around the protest. You don't have to be against the protest or for the protest, but you can just walk around. So no, it's stupid. No, he doesn't have to walk around. He's paying tuition. He's a member of that college paying tuition as same as everybody else. Why does, just because he's Jewish, why does his rights have to be impeded because of a foreign war? Again, I'll be very consistent on this. American Jews, Jewish students who are young adolescent adults, have nothing to do with a foreign war. So I think that's funny that they're doing this right now. Again, Darkworth presents that blocking people from going to classes or crossing campus is not protest, it's an act of violence. Yeah, I mean, maybe not a full act of violence, but it's you're infringing on other people's rights when you're promoting other people's rights. So it's insane what's going on. People said pressure points are valid responses to people blocking for you. I mean, yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? Just like step down and just let this happen? Oh no. But let's keep going. So more of this is trending, all right? So, this guy said breaking students at Yale erected a new encampment in the heart of campus while chanting, "We will honor our martyrs." American students don't speak this, but if you let's listen to this.
We will honor all our martyrs.
We will honor all our martyrs.
Fathers, sons, and daughters.
Fathers, sons, and daughters.
We will honor all our martyrs.
We will honor all our martyrs.
Fathers, sons, and daughters.
Fathers, sons, and daughters.
Bro, this is insane.
Free, free Palestine. Free, free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine.
Dude, yeah, like a bunch of DEI kids. I mean, I'm on like, this is just insane to me. Like, chanting for the well-being of a foreign nation while your nation is burning is insane, right? And is this more of the video? So this is according to Stop Anti-Semitism. Jewish students are actively blocked from entering campuses. Let's see this.
We will not stop, we will not rest this close. Divest. We will not stop, we will not rest this close. Divest. We will not stop, we will not rest this close. Divest. We will not stop, we will not rest this close. Divest. We will not stop, we will not rest this close.
Our campus is public space.
We can only go around.
This is public campus. You don't own this. I pay for this, just like you. I'm the Yale student. I pay tuition. This is my space too. I want to walk in there.
Dude, I just like, even if you don't like Israel or Jews, you cannot support the foreign bullshit. Like, look at that. They have foreign kafiyas, foreign hijabs on their wearing, representing foreign nations. I mean, what is this? That's a Palestinian kafia. That's a Jordanian kafia, and is that a Saudi Arabia kafia? I mean, they're just like all out there for like full Islamization, right? um, yeah. I mean, that's insane that this is happening, obviously, and we have to think like since Donald Trump is targeting Harvard, what is he gonna do about Yale? Is this more egregious than what happening on Harvard? I don't know. Does this have more to it? I mean, it's basically the same thing, right? You know, and then even more, it's like, um, yeah. I mean, it's again culture war, culture war, culture war. So here's the thing, and I do not trust the source. I mean, dude, bro, look how fraudulent the source is. And I'm not saying there's no anti-Semitism, but according to Stop Anti-Semitism, okay, this is biased, but we're gonna look at it. Um, let's see. So, because Yale's for Palestine has frequently violated the rules to which the Yale College Dean's Office holds all registered students organizations. Yale College today notified Yale's for Palestine that the college is withdrawing its status as a registered student organization. Okay, so they did get their foreign they did get their funding pulled. They Yo, I mean, that's just like stereotypical of like what's happening right now between Trump and these administration. They folded already. Yeah, they folded already. Um, and then obviously, I bet their administrators got a call too. Are their donations 100% of federal dollars? We're gonna have to find that out. But it's crazy that even without this stuff, that Ivy League colleges like Harvard and Yale, who have enormous endowments, still need federal funding. No, no, they don't. The Ivy League schools are already making a bunch of money. They're already underpaying their teachers, overpaying their administrators. They're over paying for classes and books, and they're giving kids the worst kind of education. So so why should we be in favor of keep funding elitist Ivy League schools? That teach Marxist ideology to their students. I mean, you can be against Israel and pro Palestine as you want, or when you start, caring about the well being of foreign nation other than your own, it's insanity, guys. It's insanity. Um. So yeah. I mean, and then Darkwood presents that there are laws against people blocking workplace streets, sidewalks, and should be for blocking students traversing campuses. And I guess I agree with a part of that. I mean, if you're if your school, is your parents paying for your school, is your tax dollars paying for school, is the government paying for a school, then you should go to school. You probably shouldn't skip class and protest in favor of a foreign nation, right? You probably shouldn't do that. That's America last. Forget Israel first, forget Palestine first. That's America last. Americans are taking a L on this situation for sure. We want nothing to do with the foreign conflicts, man. Come on. And then again, like it's just trending all over the place, right? Um, and then this one right here is just like how bad is this Zionism question getting out of hand? Who knows and who can tell? But obviously, the majority of Gen Z and Zoomers, they call them Zoomers, you know, have a negative opinion or a somewhat controversial opinion on Israel, and they keep talking about it, and they won't stop talking about it, even though it's a foreign nation. So this entire thing is stupid to me. It's funny that it's always trending. And then Donald Trump's going to be done with that. But yeah, let's move on and let's see. Find one more story we can talk about. Let's see what else is trending, guys. What else is up here that we got for the day? Kiev, Trayor. What is this? Trayor. Trior. Okay, another foreign conflict, I guess. Um, no Africans would scroll without liking and retweeting. Okay, so I mean, what is going on today. So, Captain Abraham Tayor of Burkina Faso responds to U.S. threats of arresting and eliminating him with possibility of invasion of the country. We either agree to fight for our country or we remain slaves forever. Um, yeah, that's a lot of propaganda. I don't know if we should go over that. That's a lot. But I mean, is this trending right now? I guess it is. So this guy is threatening, um, I guess, a retaliation to America for their position on this. I don't understand this, but I think it's interesting that not only is the Middle East in the middle of a mess, but so is Africa. Think about this. You can make an argument that Arabs and the Africans don't care about human rights. They don't care about they care about human atrocities. Think about it. The most killings and massacres going on today is happening in Africa. The Sudanese war, the Congo genocide, the killing of Christians, and then the Middle East. There are thousands of years of war and all that. It's insane. And the only common thread we have on this is that Africa and the Middle East are on the same continent divided. We need to pull up a map. This can go into a big conspiracy of, I guess, Islamic jihad is spreading around the world. I don't know if specifically, but I know that Africa is also in the bed with, this, radicalization of Islam movement, right? It's the same thing because they're killing Christians all over the Congo, and in Africa. It's interesting. Obviously, this guy's not an ally of us. But yeah, I mean, it's just weird that this is trending, I guess. Let's find one more, guys. Let's end it off with should we do Texas Doge, Somalia, Zelensky, Donetsk, Christ is King? We can do Christ is King, I guess, because a lot of people are still having some comments about this. Obviously, Candace Owens is big on this. You know, she said, so resharing Jordan B. Peterson's report regarding the proclamation Christ is King is for narcissist psychopaths. I comment what you think, Dark Words, and everybody watching. Is Christ is King anti-Semitic? Is Christ is King anti-Semitic? Who knows? But that's all trending. Everybody watching me right now knows this is trending. Christ is King, Judaism. How offensive is it? I don't know. But is it against saying Christ is King? Who knows? Let's do some more investigating here. Well, why is this going on? Okay, so Jordan Peterson is trending. So according to Cernovich, Jordan Peterson is accusing people who disagree with him on foreign wars of being mentally ill. This is Stasi level stuff. He also wants to tie in Christ is King to psychopathy and terrorism. This man is working for demons that cannot be doubted. Okay, so let's take a little bit of this clip, see what he has to say.
Well, I think the most important thing to do first is to draw a distinction between the political and the psychological, and not to collapse them together. So imagine this. Imagine that there's a group of individuals, about 4% of the population, who have a set of personality characteristics that have been described as dark tetrad. So they're Machiavellian. They use their language to manipulate. They're narcissistic. They want unearned social status and reputation. They're psychopathic, which makes them free of empathy and parasitical and predatory. And they're sadistic. So they take positive delight in the unnecessary suffering of others. Now, those people also use false cries of victimization, let's say, to manipulate, and they're entitled. They seek vengeance when it's unwarranted, and they protest loudly and make very public cries for reparations that would be self-serving. Okay, now the way those people operate is they look for what patterns of belief form groups that they can infiltrate and then capitalize on. And that happens on the right. We did a report, the same group, on the use of Christ as King as a manipulative strategy by bad actors, hypothetically on the right. And this report identified the same sort of people on the left.
Wow.
But it's not primarily political. They're wolves in sheep's clothing who look for where there's power and value and then adopt those beliefs as a surface camouflage so that they can elevate their moral status. Now, and this has become worse in recent years, as far as I'm concerned, because the evolved strategies that we have for dealing with these psychopathic types, psychopathic narcissistic types, don't work well online. And so the psychopaths can get away with their terrible manipulations online, and they can find like-minded people, and they can escape from any reputational consequences. And so there's always been psychopaths. Those are the Pharisees, for example, that Christ points to, the religious pretenders. Those are the people who use God's name in vain and claim moral virtue and even religious devotion. Well, all they're doing is feathering their own nests and furthering their own narrow interests. And the web, social media, anonymity enables them to organize and also hides them much more effectively. And this is a problem in religious organizations, it's a problem in political organizations, and it pathologizes the whole culture. You know, most people, 80% of Americans agree on virtually everything. And then there's these fringe people, and they're not political.
Yeah, no, that's a wild take he just put then. And then Darkwood said, Christ is king has been said for thousands of years. It is really anti-Semitic, or is it religious belief? I think the different opinions are not anti-Semitic. You know, and I totally agree with you. You know, like these people that are claiming, you know, it's anti-Semitism to say Christ is king and all that like biblical stuff. Obviously there's a extreme level to this, but it shouldn't be, you know, infringing on your rights to believe in your religion. You know, it's not hate speech. You know, it's just saying Christ is king. You know, and obviously there's a massive divide between the right on this issue. Is it far right extremism? Is it anti-Semitic? Who knows? And then you said Jordan Peterson isn't really doing himself any favors. He should stick to psychology. And that's the thing, like Jordan Peterson's a really smart guy, but going out on a limb and, you know, calling people anti-Semitic or you know, some kind of accusation regarding that term for saying Christ is king or Christians having, you know, devout beliefs like that. You know, you shouldn't just make a comment like that. It's, you know, I think that's pretty disrespectful what he said. Let's look at the comment section, dude. Oh my god. Okay, so this says Jordan Peterson appears on Handy, promotes his reporting thinking, political extremism. This got 1.8 million views. Okay. Let's look at it's Sonover said infiltrate and capitalize on it. Remind me what Jordan Peterson did in 2017. How many tens of millions he earned by trying to make himself the leader of MAGA populism. I don't get that comment. Hannity knows who pays him. Turn off the propaganda media. This person said Christ is king. However, he's right about internet anonymity. It promotes the absolute worst in people. If you can't stand by what you say, don't say it. You know, and that's a good I guess your pushback to that. It's interesting conversation to have. Um uh and this guy says he is wrong. Anonymity encourages a culture among men that is cruel and evasive of accountability. Men thrive on accountability, and they decay without every online space where men are anonymous start. Okay, I mean, so these are people who are like siding with Jordan Peterson, saying, you know, maybe it's a little extreme to say it, maybe it's not. Who knows? And then people like this are saying, like, you know, it's not. How is that anti-Semitic? Christ is king. What the hell happened to you, Jordan Peterson? Absolutely pathetic behavior from someone I used to respect. Okay, that's the pushback, and that's pushback I would have too. I mean, you know, downplaying or criticizing somebody for having some kind of extreme religious opinion, which is their own opinion, doesn't really do you a favor when you're supposed to be some kind of free speech absolutist. So I agree with that point. Um, you know, call me crazy, but I think anti-Semitism is what makes you anti-Semite. Um, that's an interesting comment. This person said, if someone just doesn't give a shit either side, I don't think you should be involved. They still consider you an anti-Semite. And that's the thing, you know, that's like the difference between how people perceive this issue or not. Ian Carroll said, because Hannity is and always has been a tool of neocon club. Okay. Giving him pushback for hosting it. And it's not just, you know, the Hannity aspect of this. You know, the Hannity, it's Joe Rogan. But it is a free market and a fair fair world of ideas. I mean, they did bring on obviously Dave Smith and then Jordan Peterson next, but you know, the same amount of outcry they should have about Jordan Peterson, they should keep the same energy towards, somebody like not to get too extreme, but like a Nick Fuentes, who uses it in, kind of a derogatory meaning towards, people who are not of that faith. So there's a difference, when Jack Post or Candace Owens says Christ is King, or like Donald Trump says Christ is King, that's different from like Nick Fuentes saying Christ is King, because you already know some of his positions, and he might seem to be misrepresenting some kind of his values. But you keep the same energy when it comes to people who are in this realm and controlling the narrative around this. So I mean, that's interesting that even Jordan Peterson would go on a limb and try to make a position like that. I mean, seriously, what's more likely is Jordan Peterson so much of a Zionist that he's going to make a rift between the Christian community and MAGA over some of these comments, or is he being paid off? Does he have allegiances to another nation? Not trying to get into anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, but there's a lot going on when he just steps out there and shits on people for having an opinion that doesn't coincide with his one. And to say that, it's anti Semitic, not even like targeting Jewish people, just saying it doesn't make sense. And I guess that's the divide and the grift between the MAGA on this. So, yeah, that's definitely interesting that's happening for sure. Um, yeah, and then obviously, I guess it's just Peterson all day, right? Trad West said, Jesus is king. Sky Daddy is not real. Enjoy your life. Atheism is not the knowledge that God does not exist, but only the wish that he did not, in order that one could sin without reproach or exalt one's ego without challenge. Okay. And then yeah, it's just like an interesting back and forth, literal culture war, religious culture war going on here. That's interesting to see going on the left. Dark represents that Dr. Jordan Peterson seems like a megalomat maniac. Okay, I didn't say that wrong. He just wants attention, whether people like him or not. And that's the thing about posts like that, saying Christ is King is anti-Semitic. Is he doing it for farm clickbait, for farm engagement, or he just actually believes that kind of rhetoric and narrative that's coming out of that side of the aisle, right? Um, yeah, I mean, and this is the thing that's literally dividing MAGA right now over this issue. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's interesting that's trending right now. But yeah, honestly, that was a lot to get to. We covered China, Ukraine war, Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, China tariffs, Christ is King, the deep state. A lot to get to today. I think we're gonna wrap this episode up a little early today because we got through a bunch of the stories we needed to. We will be back tomorrow again at 8 p.m. doing another news cycle like we always do every single night, tuning into the deep state, the bureaucracy, how America is going to win the battle against the establishment, according to MAGA and Trump. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and staying right with me. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Declare your independence. Thank you very much.